repeat after me. God is good.
God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
24/7.
24/7.
365.
365.
So it is, okay. It is Beatle month this month, and we are taking some Beatles tunes, and we're learning, getting some straight talk and definite steps towards spiritual truth using the Beatles as our platform. And so today we're going to talk about, what do you think, friends and community and connection. And it was a stormy night, you know, one of those kind of like those monsoon season thunderstorms, you know, where the thunder can be really, really loud and scary. And so the mom was tucking in her little boy to bed at night, and just as she's going to turn off the light, in a shaky voice, he says to her, he says, "Mommy, could you just stay with me and sleep in my room tonight?" Because he was really scared, you know. And so she goes back over to the bed, and she hugs him, and she tries to soothe him, and she says, "Well, I can't, honey. I have to sleep in Daddy's room." There's a long silence. And then finally, with that shaky voice, the little boy says, "That big sissy." Sometimes, have we been through storms? You know, and sometimes we want somebody to move through, help us move through these storms, these challenges, these trials. But sometimes we feel like we're alone. And I think what happens also is that you know, there comes to a time where we forget how to ask for what we want. We forget how to ask for what we need, because we've grown up being so self-sufficient that we think that we can get by all by ourselves. But what we really want is to get by, perhaps, with a little help from our friends. And so we have separated ourselves, and it's the unfamiliar, when really perhaps we're longing for connection, we're longing for community, we're longing for friendship. Even if we're already married, sometimes we want to have somebody other than whatever's in with our family to hang with, to be with, to talk about, to help support us, to see us in a different way. But we don't think, sometimes it's so unfamiliar, and especially now with the online stuff, we might mistake these online connections as really heartfelt, true friends. And we have, you know, we're isolated. We're in our cars. We go from our box of our house to our box to the car, to a box of work, to a box to the car, to a box of this, and we do a lot of stuff in isolation. And I think it might go counter to how it is that we're supposed to operate. And so we all long for a network of real friends. And there were two friends, and they were golfing. And so they, two guys, and one friend noticed the other friend only had one ball. And he said, "Well, you know, you need some spare balls." No. He says, "I only need one. This is a Magic Special golf ball." He says, "Well, no, I mean, what happens if you lose the ball?" He says, "I won't lose it. This ball is special. I will not lose it. I only need one." So the friend says, "Well, what happens if you hit the ball in the lake, in the water?" He says, "No problem. This ball floats. We'll just float to the surface, and I'll be able to find it and get it." Okay. Well, what if you're hitting this ball out into the rough, and it hits some trees and bushes and bounces off and does all this kind of stuff? He says, "No problem. This is a special magic ball. It's got a homing beacon, and I'll know right where to find it." The other friend is getting a little exasperated. He says, okay, what if we play all the way into the night, and now it's getting dark and you end up in a sand trap? "No problem. This ball is fluorescent. I will be able to find it." So finally satisfied, the friend says, "Whatever, fine. You only need the one ball. But hey, this ball is so special, so magical. Where did you get it?" And the guy says, "I found it." Get it? So we're looking for that find. We're looking for that homing beacon. We're looking for that connection. And we aren't meant to be alone. But, you know, in a study a few years ago by Duke University and the University of Arizona, they were having a study about the confidants that we have. And what they had found is that over the last 20 years, the people that had reported that the people that they can confide in, their confidants, has dwindled by at least over half in the last 20 years. And those people that reported that they have absolutely no one to share with their secrets, their desires, their hopes, their fears, that have no one, has doubled. So, what's up with that? What's up with that? Last week we talked about the long and winding road that leads to the door to our greatness, the door to ourselves. But it also took a risk. We had to walk through that door. And walking through that door took a risk. Well, I think what happens too for us is that we want to connect. We want to have a friend. We want to have a confidant. We want to share our lives. We do, because we have a sense that we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to relate to each other. But we need to also take that risk. And because maybe we don't have so much practice. It's easy to be a friend with our family who knows us and they know all of our dirty laundry and they love us anyway. But sometimes it's risky to reach out and be a friend to somebody else. So we need it. So we might risk to be vulnerable. Sometimes we have trust issues, right? And we don't want people to know all of our secrets. We think that we're going to be rejected. We think that we might be judged. We think that if we're going to put our heart out there, even with a friend, and then they know something and we've really invested a lot, and then all of a sudden they're not a friend anymore. And so maybe we're thinking in advance, well, I'd prefer not to go through that heartbreak of being a friend, and then it's a lot of work to find another friend. And then there's time involved. And so it's a risk to do that. It's a risk to maybe keep some commitments when we're doing something with someone else. And they're depending on us. It could be a risk that we don't want to, maybe our own personal ideas and wants get in the way. And so we don't want to really commit to someone else. And this is just in the friendship arena. So that could be a risk. It could be a risk that we're going to have a different opinion with someone else. Somebody might challenge our belief systems. Somebody might not agree with us 100% of the time. And so there's a lot of factors that go in. People move away. We've had bad experiences. We've had things, people that weren't honorable. They talked about us behind our back. Right? And so we have this thing, well, I'll be an acquaintance, and I have a lot of acquaintances, people to do things with and have fun, people that like me when I'm in a good mood. But how many of us have those true and abiding friends that are going to be there when maybe we haven't taken a shower in a month and a half? Right? When we're going through those hard times, when we're in, when we're not so perky and light, are they going to be there for us? And we long for that. But even if we do have those kinds of friends, then we're going through that storm alone, how often do we reach out and ask for what we want? So, because sometimes what it is that we build up these walls. We build up a wall to keep people out. But what happens is we're keeping our own self out too. We're keeping ourselves separate. We're keeping ourselves alone. We're keeping ourselves isolated. And then it feeds on itself, because then in our isolation, we think that we have to do everything alone. Because we can't depend on anybody. And so since we can't depend on anybody, we build up a bigger wall. And as we build up that bigger wall, we have to do everything alone. And then if we have to do everything alone, we can't depend on anybody. And so on and on and on it goes. And we find that, it's us looking out at the whole entire world, perhaps, when we're longing. We have a little peephole, and we're longing for somebody to find that peephole. But people are just walking by. Or maybe we have the peephole, but we're covering it up with our finger. So it's risky. It's risky to be in a relationship, and it's risky to be vulnerable. It's risky to put, let's call it, even looking at this, listen to our language. So I'm just making this up now. I was going to say it's risky to put our heart on our sleeve. Who says that? It's not, but we believe that it's risky, right? Because what we are is love. What we are is the allness of the infinite. What we are is the activity of the divine. There's no risk in being who we are. There's no risk. But in our fear-based thinking, in our small thinking, we think that we could be hurt. We think that we could be diminished. We think that we could be rejected. And so when we think all this stuff, we're more interested in protecting ourselves than in being ourselves. And so we want to be and show up who we really are. And who we are is love and joy and excitement and passion and enthusiasm and vitality. That's our naturalness. But we've got a lot of it covered over through the years, and then we see through those filters, we've identified ourselves in this box, and I share my boxes all the time. But, there they are. Oh, yeah, I'm in my box. But that's not who I am. That little box of who I think I am is just that. It's a box. It is not the allness of me. It is not the energy of me. It is not the essence of me, and it's not the essence of any of you. Because we are really the excitement and the activity of the divine. But sometimes we're not emoting that. We're not putting that out, and so it's not what we're getting back. So Charlie Brown was talking to Linus one day, and he said, Linus, what would you do? What would you do if you thought that nobody liked you? And Linus thought about it for a little bit, and he says, well, here's what I would do, Charlie Brown. I would take a good look at myself. And I'd ask myself, is there something about me that puts people off? Is there something I need to change about myself? Is there some habits that I need to let go of? Is there something else that I need to embrace? What do I need to change? Yep, that's what I would do, Charlie Brown. That's what I would say. Charlie Brown says, I hate that answer. But that's what sometimes, if we're looking at our life in any aspect, and it is not delightful in every, and we have a choice to always call whatever it is that we're going through delightful and magical and good, because truly it is all delightful and magical and good. But in our humanness, if we decide that we want to call something about our life not delightful and magical and good, all we need to do is take a look at ourselves. Take a look at what we're thinking. Take a look at how we're behaving. Take a look at what we're focusing on. Take a look at the walls that we might be building up. Walls between us and others? How about the wall between us and the divine? Do we hold ourselves separate from embracing all of our good because we are adopting that Mac Daddy and false beliefs that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy, that there's something wrong with us? And clearly, if we're not worthy, we're not going to be receiving. There's that huge wall right there. If we're not good enough, clearly, we're not going to be receiving. And if we don't deserve anything, we're not going to be receiving. We're not going to be receiving from the divine, from the universe, from the infinite. We're not going to be open necessarily to receive help from friends, from connection, from community, even though we long for it. So it is a risk. It is a risk. So Emerson says this. He says, I do not wish to treat friendship daintily, but with the roughest courage. When they are real, they are not glass threads of frostwork, but the solidest thing we know. So friendship, true friendship is solid. It's there. It's not glass threads, but sometimes we think of them as if they were. Right? How many times do we treat, our friends and our families, we don't treat them the way we treat strangers. We'll be kind and courteous to strangers. And it's nice to be, so let me take a back step. So it's not like, the golden rule though, treat others as you want to be treated. But sometimes there is a comfort of sometimes, I'm speaking now for myself, just letting it all hang out. And just not having to always think about it. Because I'm nice all the time. Smile all in the face, never have a negative thought. Are you laughing at that?
No, I did not in that way. That was.
But Caitlin will attest, right? But sometimes it's just nice that sometimes even I forget that I'm connected to God, that I am the divine in expression, and I forget, and so I have fear, and I have pettiness, and I have all this stuff, and when I'm comfortable with someone, then I give myself permission. Well, what we have to do to act that way, right? But I'm not going to give myself that permission with a stranger. So a stranger gets the best of me, when really my friends and my family should get the best of me. So follow up that pettiness at some point in the future with either an apology or some extra goodies, because they're the ones that are there. And some of us, like, let's say for me, I am far from my family, other than Caitlin. One day she'll move away, and then what? So I don't have a family that's located with me. Then what? Then I have to depend on friends, right? Who become the next family, who can step into an understanding. But it's about give and take. It's about flow. It's about being there. It's about being connected. And I know that in this room, I'm going to say that in this room, if we would just, you don't even have to look around at anybody, but we could say, I'm going to say for me, I'm sure it's going to be true for you, that we would like and we would want for every person sitting in this chair, we want them to be happy, don't we? Don't we want every single person that's sitting in this room to be wildly financially successful? Don't we want every single person sitting in this room to experience all the happiness and the joy that they can experience? Don't we know deep in our hearts that there is nothing stopping anyone sitting in this room from experiencing pure bliss? That every single person in this room, don't we know, is completely 100% worthy and deserving of all good that life has to offer? Don't we know that?
Amen.
Of course we do. We don't seem to know it about ourselves. And so this is the beauty and the joy and the benefit of having a friend, of having a spiritual community. They're not in our heads. We might think we're unworthy, but they don't think we're unworthy. We might think we don't deserve, but they don't think we don't deserve. We might think we're a worm in the dust occasionally, but they don't think we're a worm in the dust. And so we have someone who can hold us up, look to us, look us in the eyes, and sometimes tell us the truth, not opinion, but the truth when we're going through is that, you know what, it's not the truth, all this stuff that you're saying and going through. I'm going to know a higher vision for you. I'm going to know that right where you are, the divine is. I'm going to know that all that you want is right here and available for you. I'll be there for you. That could be a great friend. And then sometimes, so that we're on the receiving end, sometimes we're going to give that support to others. And so in that way, we can help support and uplift not only those people close to us, but then when they're in a better space, they're going to help uplift somebody else, and the ripple goes. Because we're here for each other, where it's God assisting God. Godling, if you will, assisting godling. So Ernest Holmes, founder of religious science, says this. He said, compassion and caring are the ties that bind us together in mutual understanding and in a unified attempt to uncover the divinity in each other. Compassion and understanding will help us find the divinity not only in ourselves but in each other. And we all have that capability to exude compassion and understanding. All of us do. He said, compassion is the most gentle of all human virtues, for it is the outpouring of the divine givingness through all. Compassion. That's what we can offer a friend. Understanding is what we can offer a friend. Compassion is what we can receive from someone, a friend. Understanding is what we can receive from a friend. We can be the strength for each other. We can help support each other through good times and bad. But we need to be open to receive it. We need to hear the call. We need to be available. We need to risk opening that door and putting down maybe these old ideas that maybe we've been hurt in the past, that we've not been able to sustain a friendship, that, out of sight, out of mind, or whatever it is that we've done. So, I sit in my I sit in my house. That it's true but not true. So this is the gross exaggeration. But but here how it could be. So I'm sitting in my house. Maybe I'm moaning that I don't have anything to do. No food. But what am I doing? I'm sitting in my house. Now it's possible that someone could just have X-ray vision and see me sitting. It's possible. It's possible that somebody could get lost and find my driveway. Of course, I don't open the door to strangers, but in the rare circumstance that I open the door to a stranger who's looking for directions, there's my new best friend. It's possible that I do go out, I go shopping, that my cart runs into somebody in the shopping center, and we happen to talk. All these things are possible for me doing nothing. Because with God all things are possible. But chances are, I need to risk being available. Chances are, I need to ask for what I want. I need to ask for what I need. I need to ask for things that I want to experience to be in my life. And that would be a risk to walk through the door. Because I know, too, that everybody sitting in this room even though I said it, I was thinking about everybody here, I would say I know, too, that everybody sitting in this room would say for me, oh, yes, I know. She deserves all of her dreams coming true. All the stuff I said, we want it for each other. I'm including myself in that. We want it for each other. Include yourself in that. Because that's the truth. But we're so isolated, and we forget to reach out. We forget to talk. We forget to connect. And then we don't understand it, and we don't remember it. And so we continue on when we're really wanting to get by with a little help from our friends. So there's a field, and two horses are in the field. And from a distance, they look the same. They look identical. One horse is bigger, and one horse is a littler, but they look exactly the same. But if you get a little bit closer, you will notice that one horse is blind. And the owner opted not to put the horse down, but gave him a good life. And then when you notice, if you pay really close attention, you'll hear a little bit of a bell. And when you look at where the bell is, you'll see it. The bell is attached to the halter of that smaller horse. And that smaller horse has the bell to lead the blind horse around. And so that blind horse will listen for the bell and will follow that smaller horse and will trust that smaller horse is not leading him astray, but is leading him to where he needs to go and where he should go. And all around the field, the horse will lead with the bell and stop and allow the other horse to catch up. And then at night, when they go back into the barn, the same thing. The smaller horse with the bell will walk a little bit, wait, look, you'll see him looking back to make sure the blind horse is following, so that the blind horse can go into the barn at night. And sometimes we're like that. Sometimes we're the blind horse, and we need to follow a bell. And sometimes we're that smaller horse with the bell, and we are leading those of us that need to hear. So friendship, community, is about give and take. We have both parts, and giving is so pleasurable, and taking, receiving, is pleasurable, and it's needed. But we need to risk trusting that horse with the bell, and we need to know that we're up to the point, up to the task of leading with the bell. Because it is one spiritual community, like right here, one community, one friend. We need to walk through that door. Because we can get by with a little help from our friends. We can get high with a little help from our friends. We can cry with a little help from our friends. We can sigh with a little help from our friends. We can fly with a little help from our friends. And with a little help from our friends, we can move more speedily into opening our hearts and minds to infinite possibilities. And so it is.